These Merovingians are said to be a dynasty of Frankish priest kings with magical powers. The entire history of the Holy Grail is inextricably linked with this mysterious family known as the Merovingians. The name was even used in the blockbuster The Matrix because of the power it carries. There are countless tales of mystery, magic, wisdom, and light, and most remarkably, claims of descent from God himself through his son Jesus and his supposed wife, Mary Magdalene. Some even go so far as to suggest that the Merovingians descended from an ultra-ancient race of fallen angels who spread across the globe, carrying wisdom and knowledge with them as Atlantis sank. The truth is, the Merovingian bloodline was very special and worshipped the serpent. Their history is among the most magical, mystical, and violent tales ever told. Their bloodline was so sacred to a secret order of serpent worshippers that their lives were constantly in danger. Moreover, they held a dark secret, one that was twisted beyond recognition by the Christian Church. Prepare to discover the real secret behind the Da Vinci Code. Today, there is a particular savior myth that has entered popular folklore through best-selling books, documentaries, and films: the Merovingian dynasty. This dynasty has been romantically depicted by both regional writers in France and international best-selling authors such as Dan Brown and Jean Toulet. It all began with the leader of the Salian Franks in the 5th century AD, known as Merovec. The name was Latinized as Meus, and hence the line became known as the Merovingians. Merovec and his son Childeric were great warriors, bravely fighting against the Visigoths. Following Childeric came his son Clovis I, who went on to unite most of Gaul and the Loire region, defeating the Roman ruler Syagrius, much to the joy of almost everyone, and the propaganda, of course, goes on. It was Clovis I who first adopted the Roman Catholic religion for his nation. By the early 7th century, the dynasty reached the infamous Dagobert II. He is also known as Drobert, a name derived from dragon, and Bert, which in turn comes from Bara or Para, meaning pharaoh. Thus, Dagobert simply means king or pharaoh of the dragons. Dagobert is said to have visited Iceland, a home of serpent worship, and is also believed to have married at Rennes-le-Château, where, incidentally, a ritual skull was found with a hole in its forehead. Even today, Masons revere Dagobert's head or skull, calling it Mahomet. It is kept in a convent. At the Black Sisters in Mons, the cup designed to hold the skull was fashioned into the shape of a chalice. Hence, we have the head of the dragon pharaoh in the chalice. A closer representation of the original concept of the Holy Grail is difficult to imagine. Who was Dagobert, and where did he come from? What made him so important that his skull would be turned into a grail and then worshipped by the Masons? In the year 469 AD, the Roman Catholic Church made a pact with Clovis I, king of the Franks, giving him the title New Constantine as a reward for converting to Christianity. This marked the beginning of what would be called the Holy Roman Empire, a kingdom hoped to last forever. However, it did not. By the year 800 AD, the empire was already under threat. Dagobert II was a French king from the supposed Grail-bearing Merovingian bloodline and was the last of the Merovingian kings to hold the title of Holy Roman Emperor. These Merovingians are said to be a dynasty of Frankish priest kings with magical powers derived from their long red hair and the special birthmark between their shoulders shaped like a red cross. Naturally, Christians spread rumors of witchcraft and other alleged misdeeds because Dagobert was seen as a threat. After spending several years away from his Frankish kingdoms, Dagobert returned from Ireland in 679 AD. However, tensions arose with the mayors of the palace. 3 years later, the Catholic Church plotted a conspiracy against him, due to their displeasure with Dagobert's lack of allegiance to Rome. Dagobert II, a Merovingian king, was killed during a hunting trip by his godson, ending the Merovingian bloodline's power. Charles Martel and later Charlemagne rose to power, and the Catholics claimed to have eradicated the Merovingians. Some still claim descent from this line, but these claims are largely considered propaganda. The Merovingians were believed to descend from serpent-worshipping priests, with their red hair and birthmarks marking their sacred lineage. Serpent worship, one of the world's oldest religions, is found across cultures globally. Symbols like the Red Cross are linked to serpent imagery, sun worship, and seasonal cycles. The Rosicrucians, a secretive, esoteric society of alchemists and spiritualists, were closely tied to the Masons, Templars, and the Grail legend. The term Roslin may mean rose snake, indicating the mystical serpent lineage connected to many Grail-related sites. The chapel was surrounded by a rose and a cross, inviting exploration of medieval history through documentaries and an ad-free podcast from History Hit. The island of Rades, possibly named after the serpent or the rose goddess, was once dominated by serpent worship, influencing many place names in France. In ancient mysteries, the symbol of the bull and serpent represented the sun in Taurus, linking to the Merovingian bloodline. King Mark I, considered a son of the sun, was said to be spawned by the Kaitor, a giant sea monster. The term Merovingian itself hints at being sea-born, and the Kaitor symbolizes the bull king of the sea. This tradition traces back to Mesopotamian kings and ancient sea-born serpent gods like Ons and Dagon, with the black sun representing the underworld and unconscious. Serpent priests, entering trance states, accessed divine knowledge, forming the myths of migrating serpent cults. Cults arriving in new lands brought knowledge of metallurgy, architecture, medicine, and a unique psychology. Their gods were often depicted as half bull, half fish, or serpent, symbolizing the duality between the sun, bull, and the serpent. Arnis, linked to the biblical Leviathan, represents the Ouroboros, a symbol of eternity and immortality, and inspired the phrase, "My end is my beginning." The Levites derive their name from Leviathan, meaning sons of the Leviathan. Anis is also associated with the Hindu deity Vishnu and Greek myths, where serpents transform into bulls, giving rise to symbols like the cornucopia. In Scotland, Pictish symbols frequently depict snakes with bulls, reflecting widespread bull and serpent worship. The Kinator, possibly linked to Cain, represents a bull-serpent hybrid. Babylonian legend tells of Tiat, female, saltwater, and Absu, male, freshwater, whose union produced all other gods, including the Kino, a mythical sea beast half-bull, half-fish. The serpent is said to have sired the Merovingian bloodline. Several authors claim the Merovingians were descendants of Jesus, the sun deity, making him the sun or ruler in each zodiacal sign. Tracing Quor back through Greek and into Phoenician legend, we find none other than Zeus, the same god who impregnated his own daughter Dionysus. But how is Zeus related to Quor? Quor is Dagon, the half-fish, half-serpent linked with Anis and Odon, giving rise to the dragon title. Dagon is also known as Dionys, and Zeus was called Daz. Zeus is known to have taken the form of a serpent to procreate, just as the Kaitor sired a race of sacred kings. In the Auric legends, it was this son of Zeus, Dionysus, who was to become the fifth ruler of the world. Phoenician legend involves him in the disappearance of the daughter of Canaan, Europa. Europa was a princess or daughter of a god, renowned for her beauty. One day, a servant told her that a white bull had appeared on a local beach. The tame bull allowed Europa to wrap garlands of flowers around its horn and climb onto its back. But the bull ran off into the sea with Europa, and she was never seen again. Today, an entire continent, Europe, is named after this missing girl taken by a bull. At first glance, this may seem unrelated to the Holy Grail, but the connections will become clear. We now move to another seemingly unrelated myth, the Wandering Jew. This medieval legend tells of a Jew who lived during the time of Christ and was cursed to wander the earth forever. According to Christian editions, he offended Christ on his way to the cross and was therefore condemned to walk alone until the end of time. This suggests that Christ could grant immortality on earth, not just in heaven. Interestingly, the origin of the Wandering Jew is not the medieval myth itself, but a synthesis of hundreds of supposedly separate immortal characters, all tracing back to the serpent as a source of immortality. The modern myth likely originates from a character named Malus, who struck Jesus in John 18:20 and received the curse of immortality. In Matthew 16:28, Jesus also hints at granting immortality to certain disciples. There are some standing here who shall not taste death. Note that Jesus mentioned some as the beast. There were indeed several individuals to whom Jesus granted earthly immortality, not as a curse, but as a gift. There is also a figure named Sam, who in the Quran is cursed with immortality by Moses, the wielder of the serpent staff, or caduceus. This echoes the likeness of Jesus to Moses, who lifted the brazen serpent in the wilderness. There is a remarkable astrological reason for this. Jesus was an adept who understood the motions of the planets and the sun, being a sun deity himself. Fixing the motion of the sun symbolizes immortality, as it allows one to escape the natural cycles of life and death. Then I saw a beast, essentially describes piercing or lancing the dragon, the sun passing overhead, symbolically fixing the sun in one position so that life cannot end. The Wandering Jew, therefore, may represent someone who understands this power and has, symbolically, fixed time. There are deeper layers to this character. In medieval fables, the Wandering Jew is said to have been transformed into a serpent by an enchantress named Sibylla, who is associated with a healing serpent. This is the Wandering Jew in serpentine form, shedding his skin much like a rejuvenating snake. Marcus, also known as Has Verus or Bardas, in the myth, struck Jesus as a porter for walking slowly. Jesus told him to wait for his return, which never happened, so Has Verus still lives. Later, Christian editions claim he repented and became Catholic, though this is clearly propaganda. Remarkably, he is said to age normally, but upon reaching 100, he sheds his skin and rejuvenates to the age of 30, the sacred age of illumination, matching the degrees between each zodiac sign. The Wandering Jew is also likened to Cain, father of the serpent race, who wanders the earth as an immortal with a divine mark to protect him. There is also a legend linking Hern, or Conus, the horned god, to the Wandering Jew, suggesting they are one and the same. It is said he instructed Jesus to drink water from the indentation of a horse's hoof, symbolically teaching submission and spiritual lessons. From Pasupati to Pan, the horned god has been associated throughout history with the secret of the serpent. It is Pan who opens the sister of Bacchus, revealing the serpent within. Dionysus and Bacchus are considered the same deity, often depicted with horns. The faithful were said to wear horns in imitation of their god. Even Zeus, who transformed into a serpent to bring Dionysus to life, was frequently depicted with horns. The horns signify the solar aspect of the god, the life-giving force, and are also symbolic of the bull, a solar symbol representing the sun in Taurus. The goat, in terms of animals and horns, is also connected to the serpent, as Dionysus often manifests as a goat. The awakening of Moses is similarly symbolized by horns, representing illumination. Moses, who wielded the serpent caduceus staff, raised the brazen serpent of healing for Yahweh in the wilderness. The horns thus emerge as the enlightenment aspect of the serpent, the shining or illumination one gains through processes like Kalini or other mystical methods. They symbolically represent what occurs within the mind and have been central to the heart of secret societies worldwide for millennia. Heads are crucial in the story of the serpent. Many examples highlight this, including the Greek water dragon, Hydra. According to myth, Hydra had 9 heads, 9 being the number of the sun, the immortal one. Apollodorus recounts that for his second labor, Heracles was instructed to slay the Lernaean Hydra. The beast was nurtured in the marshes of Lerna, from where it could attack flocks and devastate the land. The Hydra had 8 mortal heads and a 9th immortal head in the center. When Heracles approached, in his chariot at Lerna, he found the Hydra by the springs of Amun. Throwing flaming spears, he forced the beast to emerge, catching hold of it, but the Hydra wrapped around his foot, preventing him from striking effectively. Every time he cut off a head, 2 more grew in its place. Then a giant crab arrived to aid the Hydra, biting Heracles' foot. He killed the crab and called on Iolaus for help. Iolaus created torches from nearby woods and used the flames to cauterize the heads, preventing them from regrowing. Once this problem was solved, Heracles was able to lop off the immortal head. Heracles burned the immortal head of the Hydra and covered it with a heavy boulder by the road from Lerna to Eleusis. He then cut up the Hydra's body and dipped his arrows in its venom. Strabo recounts a remarkable tale of the venom's usefulness. He notes that the Anna River of Eleusis emitted a foul odor for 20 stadia, making the fish unfit to eat. Some writers attribute this to the centaurs washing off the Hydra's poison into the river. Remarkably, the bathing waters were said to cure leprosy, elephantiasis, and scabies. This strange medicinal effect of poison may relate to the Hydra's immortal head. Our ancestors may have used venom and snake blood as a unique medicinal substance or elixir, possibly in a specific dilution ratio, perhaps 8:1, venom to blood. Another clue involves Nessus, the centaur. Heracles shot him with poisonous arrows dipped in Hydra's venom. As he died, Nessus, aware of the arrow's lethality, drew some of his blood and gave it to Deianira, claiming it was a love charm. She was told to smear her husband's garments with the blood to ensure he would not leave her. This story connects to the horse because Nessus, like Chiron, was half human, half horse. The horse itself has a deep symbolic connection to the serpent. The word nag, now synonymous with horse, derives from Middle English naga, which comes from snag or snaka, meaning snake. In India, the word for snake is naga, illustrating a long-standing link between horses and serpents. The horse is also associated with the sun. In various coins and images, the serpent is depicted under or over a horse as a symbol of the sun god. In the Bible, Jesus, the Son of God, rides triumphantly on a donkey or horse into Jerusalem, symbolizing death and rebirth. The sun rises each day, and there is a remarkable scientific reason for its association with the horse. To produce anti-venom, non-lethal doses of venom are injected into horses. Over time, the horse naturally builds antibodies designed to neutralize the venom. Eventually, the horse's blood is collected, and the antibodies are extracted to produce anti-venom. This process, while scientifically validated today, mirrors knowledge preserved in oral traditions for centuries. The ancient symbolism of the horse is also evident in peculiar images of horseshoes in rock art in Australia, created long before horses existed there. At Newgrange in Ireland, horseshoes appear alongside spirals and snake imagery, linking the horse to serpent symbolism. Returning to the concept of the head and its association with the serpent, the Greek god Pan, considered by many scholars a progenitor of the horned god, is frequently depicted with serpents. According to some sources, His father was Hermes, wielder of the caduceus, while other sources claim he was the oldest god, even older than Zeus. In Cirencester, England, the horned god is depicted with two snakes rearing in place of legs, similar to depictions of Dionysus. Dionysus, associated with animals and hunting, is also linked to the chalice or elixir. There is a female counterpart in Amalthea, the goat nymph goddess, who nursed Zeus. Zeus took one of Amalthea's horns and gave it to the nymphs, creating the Horn of Plenty, the precursor to the Holy Grail. Upon becoming Lord of the universe, Zeus set Amalthea's image among the stars as Capricorn, depicted with a fish or serpent tail. Frescoes in the Roman catacombs show the sea goat carrying the caduceus, linking the horned god to healing and wisdom. This image later influenced alchemical and Kabbalistic traditions. The wandering Jew and the horned god, along with Osiris and Dionysus, are all synonymous with the infamous Green Man. The Green Man, or even Green Woman, appears across the world in medieval and modern churches and cathedrals. Many are familiar with the Roslin Chapel in Scotland, which features hundreds of green men peering from foliage. Take a trip to Southminster or Lichfield Cathedral in England, and you will find many more. In fact, there are thousands. In Europe, these depictions are ancient and have distinct pagan origins. Understanding our diverse pagan heritage, which included the worship of the serpent and all it entails, helps us see how Christianity adopted these symbols. The Green Man represents fertility, nature, and life, and it is only fitting that he has a female counterpart of equal status. The fewer female green deities appearing in church carvings is due to Christianity emphasizing the paternal aspect inherited from Jewish tradition. True fertility and nature, however, must embody a dual male and female aspect, reflecting life on our plane of existence. But why is this character green? One possibility dates back to the time of Moses. The area of a snake bite would turn green. The Green Man or woman may not have been green because of foliage, but as a symbol of immortality and healing through snake venom. The Arabic name Elkad means green and is sometimes linked to the Sumerian character Gilgamesh. In one epic, Gilgamesh sought the herb of eternal life, the elixir, only for a snake to steal it while he bathed. He also cut the chupu tree, surrounded by serpents, and brought it to Inanna, keeping the roots where the snakes had been to create the magic wand. Miku and Puku are said to be the progenitors of the serpent rods of Moses and Aaron. Elkad is also equated with Saint George, the wandering Jew, Elijah and Moses, the one with the serpent staff, also known as Melchizedek, the longest-lived person in the Bible. Dionysus is said to be the Greek Green Man before he took on his role as the god of wine and ecstasy. Some scholars claim that Elkad is John the Baptist, especially when considering that representations of the Year King and Queen, or Green Man and Woman, were often decapitated and hung on a tree, mirroring John's beheading and Jesus' crucifixion. This suggests that John and Jesus may represent two aspects of the same archetype. Elkad is said to be immortal, having drunk from or fallen into the water of life. He is wise as a serpent, and several Sufi orders claim descent and initiation through him, with connections to Islam. Some even link Elkad to Al-Qued, the Muslim star, on the tail of the serpent. The color green frequently appears in folklore, myth, and legend, often connected to serpents. For example, the serpent-linked queen in the King Arthur legends is said to wear green or emerald robes. Sir Gawain, the Green Knight, and Wolfram von Esbach's tales strongly linked to Templar legends. Even the hermit Trevet is associated with a green robe, and the sword used to behead John the Baptist is said to be emerald. Ancient druids, Nephites, and fairies were also said to wear green. Globally, green is recognized as a fertile and vegetative color, which is why the secretive languages and symbols of alchemists, mystics, and Gnostics are often referred to as the Green Language. A quick mention of Roslin. Although the Sinclair family, who built Roslin Chapel, were not Templars, they were indirectly linked to them. Roslin features hundreds of Green Man images alongside Templar symbols, including two brothers on a horse, the Agnus Dei, the five-pointed star or pentacle, the head of Christ, Baphomet, the floriated cross, and the dove with an olive branch. Many of these symbols originated from older religions, but were repurposed within Christian contexts. With historical ties to the Templars, it is difficult to dismiss an esoteric connection. Inside Roslin, visitors are struck by the overwhelming depiction of vegetation, reminiscent of bringing the outdoors inside, evoking the Garden of Eden, with the Tree of Life and the Tree of Knowledge. This makes the presence of the Green Man particularly fitting. A few miles from Roslin lies Temple, the modern name for Ballantradak, the ancient headquarters of the Templars in Scotland. Returning to our broader story, the Moravian royal family, infamous in legend, has even influenced modern culture, appearing indirectly in films like The Matrix due to their perceived connection to secrets and secret societies. Over time, these myths have become profitable in literature and film, often mixing fact with scandalous fiction to support theories that are difficult to substantiate. Setting aside the simple historical truths behind the Ballantradak legends, there is no real connection between the supposed lineage of Jesus and Mary and shape-shifting reptiles. That lineage exists only in human imagination. In fact, it would stretch the historian's credibility to accept the historical Jesus as he is commonly portrayed. Jesus, as we can see, was a culmination of many pagan deities, all of whom were connected in some way to the worship of the wise serpent and the power of the sun. It is therefore not a stretch to understand that the character of Jesus was partly inspired by these serpent deities. Consider the shedding of the skin. The snake crawls into a dark place, leaves its skin behind, and emerges reborn. Similarly, Christ, after dying on the cross, was placed in a tomb and then rose to new life, leaving his old skin or shroud behind. In Africa and elsewhere, snakes are still pinned to trees as votive offerings or sacrifices for the health of the tribe, sometimes pierced on the side, mirroring Christ's crucifixion. Christ has been equated with Moses' brazen serpent, and we are told to be wise as serpents. Ancient pagan worship of the wise serpent has subtly woven itself into modern religions. As we have seen from the disparate evidence presented, numerous clues lie before us. Yet we must first remove the preconceived notions ingrained by Sunday school, textbooks, cinema, or the internet. Imagine a world without mystery. No ghosts, no aliens, no Loch Ness Monster, no Bigfoot. Picture humanity evolving over vast periods, gradually becoming conscious of the world and its place within it. It is like watching a monkey suddenly become aware of its surroundings. It notices, learns, and suddenly realizes it is sentient. The monkey looks at others with a new perspective, recognizing differences while feeling a mix of awe and pity, forever changed by this awakening. Human consciousness gradually separates from nature, beginning to use the world for its resources. Like a curious child, the mind seeks to understand how everything is constructed and how it can be taken apart. Early humans observed the points of light in the sky, the big yellow sun, and the white moon that changes shape at night. Each discovery sparks analysis and inquiry. Over thousands of years, the descendants of these early humans adapt to cold and wet climates by wearing animal skins. They learn to hunt increasingly larger quantities of animals for food. With more time available, their minds develop further, questioning the mysteries of the natural world. Fear arises from darkness, deep waters, and harsh elements, driving them to understand the stars, the sun, the moon, raging waters, reflections, and death. Everything must be explained or avoided. Over millennia, humans experiment with the natural world, discovering cures, medicinal plants, and mind-altering substances. One impaired early human consumes a strange mushroom and experiences a vision of another world, a realm of imagination and unconscious awareness. Convinced of its reality, he shares his experience, inspiring others to try it. They encounter archetypal visions, spirals, and serpentine shapes, patterns that modern research confirms exist at the deepest levels of the human psyche. Awake, they perceive these shapes in the natural world and witness the snake disappearing into the other world and returning renewed. The snake becomes a symbol of transformation, more special than any other animal. As time passes, humans build large wooden structures, tree circles, and pathways reflecting these, patterns that modern research confirms exist at the deepest levels of the human psyche. Awake, they perceive these shapes in the natural world and witness the snake disappearing into the other world and returning renewed. The snake becomes a symbol of transformation, more special than any other animal. As time passes, humans build large wooden structures, tree circles, and pathways reflecting these. Priests carved and painted snakes, becoming known as serpent priests or the Shining Ones. These practices, evidenced archaeologically, influenced myths of saviors, immortal shamans, and green men. The Merovingians, considered priest kings with magical powers, reflect millennia of humans trying to understand the natural world, the psyche, and the fear of death. Symbols, especially the serpent, were used,